She was born in Selba, Norway in November of 1859. And her given name was Brynhild Sturseth.
Okay. Yeah, you warned me that you weren't going to be able to pronounce people's names, but I didn't know it was going to be this bad. Like, this is offensive.
This is like embarrassing for you. She was one of 8 siblings, their father being a peasant farmer and a stonemason when it wasn't the season to farm. As a young child, Brimhild.
Is that maybe that's like the Norwegian version of Broomhilda?
Probably, yeah. Brimhild spent her youth as a dairymaid and cattle girl for money that would go towards helping the family.
Hot stuff.
I got some information about Belle from a YouTube documentary put out by Midnight Crows Chronicles because she has the least annoying voice. It's actually a very good video, and it seems pretty thorough because I was also reading a book on the side and the facts were lining up. So I imagine this video is pretty accurate. According to this video, she herself sourced an Irish TV documentary by Anne Barrett Vistby that aired in September of 2006. Why is this important?
Yeah. Tell me, please, because I don't know anything you just said.
Because it featured an unsubstantiated rumor that was nonetheless widely circulated. The story from this documentary goes like this. In 1877, at the age of 17, Brimhild discovered she was pregnant. There was a huge scandal. There's no word on who the father of the baby was. And while pregnant, she went to a country dance and was assaulted by a man from a wealthy family. Brimhild fought off his advances and frustrated, the man kicked her in the abdomen, resulting in a miscarriage. Okay. Many who knew Gunness noticed her personality changed after that. The man who attacked her faced no repercussions from the law, and not long after this happened, he passed away from stomach cancer. Some people who study Belle Gunness point to this moment as a sort of catalyst, maybe activating something that had already been brewing inside of her.
Brewing Hilda. She worked hard as a farmhand and managed over the course of 3 years to save up enough money to move to the U.S., chasing the American dream and escaping the miserable life in Norway that had made a farmhand of her. She was chasing it with a rope and a sack.
She wasn't chasing as much as she was writing letters trying to get America to come to her. In her early 20s, she followed her sister to Chicago, her sister Nellie.
Wow, so this could be H.H. Holmes.
Yeah, in 1881.
Okay.
When does he do his thing? 1894?
Yeah, it was maybe he was a little too young for this.
A little bit.
He was still just skinning young animals.
He was still trying to find
small animals.
They're young. Trying to find a plot of land to, build a castle on. Once arriving to America off the steamship Tasso, she changed her name to Belle Peterson. She took the domestic servant jobs but eventually landed a job at a butcher shop, which is like Babe Ruth, like picking up a baseball bat. Speaking of Babe Ruth, Belle is a stock woman. She was 5'7" and weighed 210 to about 250 pounds. She was strong. She was had a big frame. So her working at a butcher shop makes sense body wise. Like a lot, like
she's a real Marty of a lady.
They were saying it wasn't ladylike to do a lot of to just lift a cow over her shoulder and stuff. But she was just very strong. She's a very strong woman.
I'm imagining the school chef from Matilda.
Yeah, a little bit like that. Yeah. At the butcher shop, it's where she would meet the man who would become her first husband, Mads Sorensen, another Norwegian, and the two married in 1884.
I said, as if I was thinking of Mads Nicholson.
Oh, Mads Sorensen.
Oh, the guy. The guy from Andor, whatever.
So the two got married in 1884. And could you imagine this? It wasn't ideal. She was cold, unaffectionate woman who is said to have confessed to her sister Nellie that she was only with Mads because he had a nice home.
Sounds like a Norwegian marriage to me.
The two quarreled about money constantly. Now, over the next 10 years, they struggled, but in 1884, they managed to open up. It's either grocery. I read both a grocery store and a confectionery on Grand Avenue in Elizabeth called Sorensen's Candy Store. I guess it's a confectionery. But I don't know if they opened two stores or not because the book said grocery store, everything else said confectionery. I trust a book because it's a book, but I know I'm not supposed to trust books all the time.
No, never trust books. There's only one book to trust, and I can tell you more about it later. It's a pretty good book, though. It's Dune.
It's Dune. So their home welcomed children, but it's unclear if she had children, which I don't think she did. I don't think she could after the attack.
Okay.
I don't think she could have children. I think really she collected unloved children around her. According to the books Heartland Serial Killers by Richard Lindbergh, which is the book that I was reading, it was rumored that the grocery store the Sorensens ran was actually a quote-unquote blind, but it wasn't liquor they were sneakily selling. It was children, infants.
Okay, like
she was taking either unloved children off the street or kidnapping kids, babies, and selling them to people who couldn't have kids.
Okay.
Or people who needed kids.
Good. I mean, good, not good.
But
I was thinking, are they? Is this are they
is it a Pizzagate or are they drinking their blood? Like, what are they doing with
There's only
these
two
kids?
options with kids. There's no way you want to raise them. So there was Myrtle and Lucy, two young girls, and soon they welcomed the baby named Axel into the mix and trying to fool someone. And I think she was trying to fool some people into thinking she gave birth, but many thought it was curious. After that, one day there was just an infant there, and I think that infant was Caroline. They were married for 11 years, but she was trying to convince everyone she had given birth to 4 girls in the span of 3 years. Like, it's the bad plan.
Norwegian twins.
Yeah. One day someone came by and the last baby was just gone. No explanation. She told different stories about what happened to it. It was said that a man drove to her house. He disappeared the following day, but his horse and carriage stayed. So a lot of weird things happening when they're living in Chicago.
I mean, that's what happened.
Yeah.
That seems to be like what Chicago was known for.
In the turn of the century. It's said that in 1896 and 1898,
and the pizza.
And the pizza. It's said that in 1896 and 1898, according to burial records, Caroline and Axel Sorensen had passed away, both from acute colitis, which shares symptoms with being poisoned. Both children offered to Belle a significant insurance claim.
My God, she is H.H. Holmes.
Yeah. Now the two dreamed of opening a confectionery store, but
did she have a indescribable charm and such a one beautiful picture of her that exists?
Yeah, one beautiful picture. And
nobody could resist her.
Just loved. People weren't asking where she was selling all these skeletons from.
Nobody wanted, because she looked like how this sounds in a picture. That's the picture of H.H. Holmes.
H.H. Holmes' photo is so funny. The one photo of Billy the Kid's like, what?
The most charming.
Yeah. The most charming, childish outlaw. What a scamp. What? What? Do H.H. Holmes
Can
one more
I
time?
borrow a cob of corn?
Now, the two dreamed of opening a confectionery store, but unfortunately, the American dream was out of their price range. But luckily for them, their home in Chicago burned down and the insurance money payout was used to buy the confectionery store. But then the confectionery store burned down later. This is written out of order, but that basically, there was likely an insurance payout for the confectionery store too. The year was 1900, and the same year as one of the fires, whichever one came first, I read both ways actually, was the same year that her husband, Mads Sorensen, had died. The official cause of death was a cerebral hemorrhage. The day he died was coincidentally, or as the documentary kept putting it, curiously, this happened, and it's like, that's murder. He died on the same day when 2 life insurance policies overlapped. One doctor suspected he was poisoned with strychnine, but the family doctor had treated Sorensen for an enlarged heart and proceeded without an autopsy to declare his death.
Oh, he loved her too much.
His heart's too big. He called it heart failure. She admitted to giving him medication to help deal with the pain, and she applied for the insurance money immediately after his funeral, curiously.
Well, I mean, what, she's going to do it during the funeral?
Can you guys wrap this up?
They close at 4.
Yeah. She was awarded the 2024 equivalent of over $300,000 from his death. With this money, she was able to purchase a 48-acre farm outside of LaPorte, Indiana. H.H. Holmes had his maniacal murder castle in Chicago. Belle Gunness has her sinister murder farm in LaPorte, known formerly as Brookside Farm.
That was the name of her farm.
Her farm is called Brookside Farm.
I think I go shopping there. That's where I get my produce.
Where I get my meats, yeah. Where I get my meats.
Is that the name of the market in Beechwood Canyon?
You mean the Beechwood Market? Yeah, that's it.
AKA Brookside
Farm, yeah.
A subsidiary.
Do not drink the coffee. Do not drink the coffee. Do not smell the rag. It does not smell like rosemary.
Do not buy those children.
Oh, but they're smiling at me. She took Myrtle and Lucy along with a new foster daughter named Jenny.
Myrtle.
Murdy.
I see it.
In April of 1902, she married a fellow Norwegian man, a widower who had 2 daughters named Peter Gunness. She is now Belle Gunness. Soon after their marriage, Peter's daughter, one of his daughters, his infant daughter, died of mysterious circumstances under Belle's care.
Was there insurance involved?
Sometimes I'm like, so how much did that get? Like every time somebody dies in a story, I'm like, so what was the payout?
Yeah, because that's what
Holmes wasn't.
It was, but then there were a few kids that I don't think he had insurance policies on. I think it was just kind of like, I can't deal with this. What am I going to do with these?
What I understand of H.H. Holmes is some murders were business and some were pleasure, but all were murder. Like sometimes I really want to torture this person, and sometimes I need money, so I'm going to kill this person to sell their skeleton, or I'm going to pretend to be this dead body. But he was murdering a lot of people.
He was murdering a lot of people, but I think...
Let's just do a freaking episode on H.H. Holmes.
Did he... he murdered the housing market in Los Angeles. Did you know that? He collected the insurance.
I bet you didn't know that, huh? I bet. By December of that year, 1902, Peter was dead after the drill end of a meat grinder fell off a shelf and landed on his head.
Oh my God.
According to Belle, on December 16th, Peter was sitting next to the kitchen stove, and while he was reaching over to pick up his shoe, his body weight rocked the shelf above, dislodging the grinder and a stone jar containing hot water. Both of these, according to Belle, fell off the shelf, crashed into his skull, and killed him. He didn't die initially. Belle treated his wound by putting Vaseline on the wound.
She treated his wound by putting a knife in it.
Yeah. She tried to close the wound with a gun.
And then in one crazy death spasm, he signed an insurance policy.
His hand was just, he already was holding the pin to help put his shoe on his foot. So she treated the wound by putting Vaseline on it to ease the pain and laid him down. He was conscious, but he fell asleep, and Belle woke up to the sound of him groaning. He was dead before the physician could get there. The coroner determined that the height and weight of the items could have done that damage and that there was no foul play. I also read somewhere that there was a coroner's inquest into this because his daughter said, Jenny says something, but it'll get back to that later. But eventually there was found to be no foul play. Mm-hmm. But how strange that it didn't kill him. A skull fracture, but he died later. Belle collected $3,000 from his death. Peter's brother came and took...
That's it?
Yeah, that's it. Because I think the last one, the payout was the two were overlapped.
She doesn't want to get greedy.
She's getting greedy now. So the dead guy, Peter, his brother came and took his niece, Peter's other daughter, away while leaving the other girls still under Belle's care. They basically snuck his niece away and just like, okay, the other girls, none of my business. In 1903, now at the age of 44, she was now passing a new baby off as her own, Philip. He just appeared one day, and a rumor had spread through Laporte that Belle had murdered another woman and taken her baby. This was a wild, unsubstantiated claim, but so is everything with Belle. There was also a rumor that Belle was not a woman, but actually a man in drag, but that's a rumor based only on her build and her inability to have children, which we've already covered. What I'm just trying to say is like anything could be a rumor, I guess.
Yeah.
But like some rumors sound like they're absolutely true, but then you have to also like take into consideration that there were rumors that about her gender too. In 1906, the oldest of the girls under Belle's care, Jenny, disappeared. Belle told everyone she left to Lutheran College in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. It was said that Jenny had told someone that her mother had killed her father with a meat cleaver and do not tell a soul.
So
the daughter, Jenny, was going around saying, or told a couple people that, which is how I think she had to go on the stand for the coroner's inquest and was like, I didn't say anything. I think after that, she disappears.
Okay.
So after the death of Peter, Belle began to put out calls for a company in the Lonely Hearts placements in the newspaper titled The Scandinavian. This is kind of what she's known for now.
Being a lonely misconnection.
Yeah. One of the
Black Widow.
Yeah, Black Widow killer. One of them reads, personal, a comely widow who owns a large farm in one of the...
That's generous, Belle.
Who owns a large farm in one of the finest districts in LaPorte, Indiana, desires to make the acquaintance of a gentleman equally well provided with a view to joining fortunes.
Or best offer.
Or OBO. No replies by letter are considered unless the sender is willing to follow up with a personal visit. Triflers need not apply.
She's thirsty.
Thirsty for money. Many middle-aged men would come to Brookside Farm and never be seen again. A lot of these men were of Nordic descent because she put out the ads in the Scandinavian. I imagine trying to connect with someone from their homeland, lonely in America, having settled in the upper Midwest or Great Plains. At one point, it was a different man nearly every week, and she would refer to them as cousins. The same would happen with day laborers who came to work on the farm. They would just disappear. Olaf Lindbaugh was one of these men that just disappeared at the height of plowing season.
I bet it was.
She told different people different stories about him leaving. Next was a migrant from Wisconsin named Henry Gerholt, who was there 5 months before vanishing. All these men would bring a trunk of their belongings and would leave with nothing. The trunks were left behind. John Moe of Minnesota arrived with $1,000 to help pay off her mortgage. He disappeared. George Anderson of Missouri arrived at the farm and she proposed marriage to him. He awoke in the middle of the night to find her standing over him, holding a candle, staring at him. She then left the room, and Anderson bailed at that moment, which is how he survived. He's the only person smart enough to run. Many more arrived and never left. But in June of 1907, she would meet an equally disturbed person, a 37-year-old handyman named Ray Lampier, a swell, jack of all trades, but apparently like a real stupid guy, like a real dullard and sneaky creep sex freak. He also really looks like the actor Michael Sheen.
Okay. Charlie's dad? Oh, wait.
That's
No, it's Martin Sheen.
Michael Sheen's
The
the
British guy?
actor. Yeah, the British
Okay.
guy. He kind of, there's like two photos, not every photo, but there's two photos like Michael Sheen.
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah. But it seems like he wasn't just a handyman at Brookside Farm. He was boasting to people in town that him and the 48-year-old mistress of McClung Road were boinking. That's what he called her.
It's a Scandinavian word.
Yeah. I don't know why you would brag about that. But it seems like he was infatuated by her. Apparently, she often proposed marriage to him and urged him to take out a life insurance policy, telling him she would pay the premiums if they married. He refused, and she remained bitter about this, but never murderous towards him. He knew enough to stay away from the secret room on the second floor, referred to in the book as Bluebeard's death chamber, a room where she would presumably kill and cut up any man foolish enough to answer her personal ads. Which could, and those, by the way, continued pulling men in despite her side piece being around. Like she's fooling
Don't
around
mind
with this.
him. He likes to watch.
Yeah, he likes to watch.
He likes to listen. He likes to read the insurance policies.
Yeah, he likes to read the insurance policies, and
I do the murders for the insurance policies. Okay,
I'm here crunching numbers. And your numbers.
Your numbers up.
Yeah, she must have felt something for him because he was not in a shallow grave, and he was smart enough not to push her too hard, or he'd end up there. And in that pickle, their relationship lived.
Okay.
But his jealousy didn't mix with his alcoholism, and he started to create scenes, disturbing her well-crafted Black Widow act, and eventually she fired him as a handyman, not killed him, which she could have easily done. She went to the cops in LaPorte and told them that they should have an insanity hearing for this Lampier guy. And this was done to discredit any wild claims about shallow graves he might speak about. He would keep coming back to the farm, though, and threatening her and say, I'm going to tell everybody. And she would call the cops, and they let him out, and he would do it again. Why not just kill him? One day...
Do we have an answer of why? Okay.
One day, Belle Gunness bought 2 gallons of kerosene and some toys for her children.
What, the kerosene wasn't for the kids?
Drink up. In April...
Have fun.
Yeah, have fun. On April 28th, 1908, the new handyman at Brookside Farm was awakened by the smell of smoke in the house. The house was on fire. He jumped out of the window and
The house
was on fire.
Okay, I understand.
He jumps out of the window in his underwear and ran to get help. And by the time help arrived on the scene, the house was mostly ashes. 4 bodies were found on the scene, the children and Belle. But one of the bodies could not be identified. And it was Belle's body. Why couldn't it be identified? Do you know? Because it was missing its head.
Oh, God. The fire melted her head off?
Only her head.
And it just melted. She must have looked at the Ark of the Covenant then.
That's probably what it was. She drank the cup.
And then also someone's heart got ripped out.
Yeah, there's an Indian guy from India, not Native American. I know the difference, and I'm not trying to be rude.
I'm not Columbus, okay? I know the difference.
Lousy Italian. I think it was Spanish. When it came time to look for a suspect, there was Ray Lampier, who Belle had been pointing to for some time as being a threat to her and her family. A witness even came forward saying they saw Lampier fleeing the scene of the burning house. He dismissed the claims, but they still arrested and charged him with murder and arson, which is why she maybe kept him alive for so long.
Oh, okay.
Depended on him. Around this time, a brother of one of the victims took it upon himself to investigate the disappearance of his brother, one of the guys who came to the farm. And him looking around helped lead the discovery of the shallow graves and numerous bodies found at Brookside Farm.
How many bodies were there?
Burlap sacks with body parts were planted all over the acreage, buried under trash. Jenny, the adopted daughter of Belle that she said went to college in LA, was buried there. The man who went looking for his brother found his brother, buried there. Police stopped counting after the 11th body. Some say in total, Belle Gunness may have killed up to 40 people in her life.
Wow. That's serial.
Yeah, that's serial.
Well, then how come H.H. Holmes is considered America's first serial killer? Maybe because she's not American?
This was 1908.
Oh, okay.
So
she's
she's
after
caught in
H.H.
1908. Yeah, his castle came down much before that, I think, right?
Oh, how the castle fell.
Oh, boy. I think that she had been killing people, but the farm starts later, 1901, 1907.
Is that where the phrase they bought the farm?
I don't think so.
It should be.
It should be. Why would you want to buy this farm, though? The farm is now a tourist attraction.
Is it really?
Yeah. But many people in town were suspicious of Belle Gunness.
A theme park.
The corn dogs. You got to get the corn dogs at the old LaPorte house. But many people in town who were suspicious of Belle Gunness's farmhouse were quick to say that there's no way that body was hers. The coroners even measured the body to determine how big the head would be or should be, and discovered the woman who they were measuring would have stood 5'3" and weighed about 150 pounds. That is not Belle Gunness's build.
her build was her defining feature. They went to stores she frequented who had her measurements, and they concluded the headless body found at the remains of the farm could not possibly be Belle Gunness.
Right.
The body of the deceased woman was further examined internally and discovered remnants of strychnine. At the farm, they found a set of human teeth, a whole bridge, top and bottom, still connected, and the local dentist recognized these teeth as having once belonged to Belle Gunness. That unfortunately counted as evidence, and the coroner had to declare the body found on the farm to be of Belle Gunness. Even though at the trial of Ray Lampier, people speculated that the teeth were planted for this very reason, tests were done to determine whether those teeth would have decayed during a fire. They would, but it didn't matter. In November 1908, Ray Lampier was charged with the murder of Belle Gunness and her children. He was found guilty. I think he did 25 to life, but he died from tuberculosis before he could serve his whole sentence.
Lucky guy.
On his deathbed, he confessed to having helped her dispose of bodies, burying some, feeding some to pigs. Belle would often drug the coffee of men who would arrive and attack them. Sometimes she'd use chloroform or strychnine. He told the police that the headless body on the scene was a woman from Chicago who had answered the ad to be a housekeeper at Brookside. This woman was drugged, killed, and mutilated for the purpose of staging Belle's death.
Imagine if this person or one of these people narrowly escaped being killed by H.H. Holmes.
Oh my God. Yeah. I was going to take a shower, but then I went to the car instead and I just kept walking.
And I just want a quiet life here in Indiana on a farm.
Yeah. Belle dressed the dead housekeeper in her clothes and left her false teeth at the scene to assure cops that they would think that it was her. Her children were chloroformed and smothered to death and left in the basement. This was all done because the brother of the missing man was coming to the farm. And if this man was coming already suspecting something being, foul, it was going to be really hard to trick or subdue him. He was not going to drink the coffee. He was coming here looking for his brother. So that's why she set the house on fire and escaped.
She had to sell the farm.
Yeah, she had to sell the farm. It was suggested that she withdrew a large sum of money from the bank before the fire. Lampier and her were supposed to escape together, but he was double-crossed, left with the crime all by himself, and she took off.
Because when you think of serial killers today, and I often do, what was the inspiration? Where did they come up with these? Her and H.H. Holmes, where did they come up with these ideas that are so diabolical? Now you can look at the Zodiac Killer or whatever and be like, you
listen to people like the BTK Killer and there's a guy from Canada and they're like
Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, Wayne Gretzky.
He killed those goals.
They look at the Zodiac Killer or Jeffrey Dahmer and they're like, inspirations. Yeah, cool, which is disgusting. But you're right. You look at these people. It's just raw urge and it's compulsion. That's what drives serial killers.
But to think how to double cross someone and to do such disgusting, horrible things, where does that come into your mind in that day and age when that's not even something people see in the newspaper, except H.H. Holmes.
Yeah.
But it's not like they, kids these days plays these video games and then they kill everybody.
That will always be the best argument against the video games are corrupting kids. Kids have humanity will always find a way. People will be people. Man's inhumanity to man
or woman
and woman.
Allegedly.
So where was Belle Gunness?
Yes, I would like to know. Where does this now? What does this have to do with Los Angeles?
Many people through the years.
Pretending I know, but listener, I know. I like to make Greg feel like he's teaching me something.
Many people through the years reported seeing her living in the woods of Indiana. Some saw her in the bustling streets of Chicago or New York or a small town in Mississippi. In 1931, a woman named Esther Carlson was arrested in Los Angeles after a suspicious poisoning death of Carl Lindstrom, an 81-year-old lumberman of Norwegian descent.
I was going to say, that's a pretty Norwegian last name.
Esther Carlson was a housekeeper, and the man's son had reported that $2,000 were missing from the dad's joint savings account that he, for some reason, opened with the housekeeper.
Okay. Did you say what part of town this was in?
I believe Long Beach.
Okay.
After his death, the money was gone. The son reported to the police and she was arrested. It was discovered at a Long Beach pharmacy that she had tried to buy arsenic. Although this woman was much thinner as age ate away her frame, she still bore resemblance to Belle Gunness. There's a photo of Esther Carlson. She does look like an older, thinner Belle Gunness.
Why here? Why?
I don't know.
Why Long Beach? Not just here, Long Beach. Why Long Beach?
I don't know why specifically Long Beach. I'm trying to think of Long Beach during the 30s. When did the earthquake hit? 34,
I guess 32? So. I like this.
Yeah, it was populated. And she also was aware of Los Angeles because she was lying to people about her daughter, Jenny Olsen, going to Lutheran College.
Maybe like so many of our listeners, she wanted to move here one day.
She wanted to see the beach.
Esther Carlson died of tuberculosis in May of that year. It was never determined whether this woman was Belle Gunness or not. At the home of Esther Carlson was a photograph of 3 children who looked like the Gunness children who died in the fire. Many people who knew Esther Carlson, born Esther Johnson, confirmed that these 2 women were separate and they both had an urge that most female killers do of poisoning men and killing them for money.
To kill specifically Norwegian men.
Norwegian men. But the body in the farm can't be Belle's, right? So what happened to Belle Gunness?
Okay, so where's the answer?
So I know this is called Unsolved Mysteries, but like, who did it?
Give me the concrete answer right now.
Literally you whenever you watch Unsolved Mysteries. Yeah, but what happened?
Okay, I flipped it over. What's part 2?
So what happened? That's Belle Gunness' story.
Yeah, because the way I heard it was like it's, from what it seemed to me, the consensus is like, yeah, this lady in LA was her.
I believe it was her.
It sounds like it.
Because I know that that's not her in the fire.
No,
I'm pretty sure that's not
that
her.
can't be.
Those are teeth planted. Those are
I know planted teeth.
I know planted teeth.
I planted
all right?
a lot of teeth.
Yeah. Okay. So
in my enemies' necks.
and the necks of virgins all over this country.
When I get really thirsty and the moon is bright, that's amore, baby. I'm an Italian vampire Italiano.
Yeah.
Count DiGiorno. But that's a weird, as Count DiGiorno would say. But it's just weird that like for someone to look like her, to have the same MO, but specifically to be doing that to Norwegian men. Like, why Norwegian men? Was she angry about like this Norwegian guy that
maybe, but like also because she's born and raised in Norway, she might just have like enough experiences to be able to talk to people, other men from Norway. That might be like the link between 2 things. It's like, oh, we get along. We know each other so well. Remember the homeland? I remember the homeland. And then you're suddenly...
Yeah, here's a new land for you. Dreamland.
That's how she lures people in. And she has a better chance luring someone in from Norway because she already has, like, we can talk about something or a conversation's already built up around it.
Yeah, it's a cultural bias.
Heard of it?
She's drawn to people from her own background. She should have been killing Swedish people.
Yeah, she should have been killing Germans.
Like we all were in the 30s.